Is my mic still on? I hope so. All right. So we just saw what Bethany was like. Now, if we go into the center and we start to go north, you end up in Samaria. So this is that hill country. So this would be all like hills. So Samaria is the name of the region. The people from there are the Samaritans. So there's also the city of Samaria, and you saw in that video about King Herod the Great. He built it into a Greco-Roman city. So I have some pictures for you. Hang on. Woo. So looking at Samaria, here again you see that topography, the hills of Samaria. And when we look at these hills and we think, think about all the nature references Jesus uses in the Gospels. He talks about the lilies of the valley, the birds of the air. So he is living in a place with a lot of natural beauty. He's not down in the Judean desert. And this is a map of the city of Samaria. And like they said, Herod built it to be a Greco-Roman city. So in this time, you have the Romans in control of Palestine. And what happened is something we call Hellenization. Hellenization is when people adopt Greco-Roman culture, especially the first part of creating a culture is usually the language and religion. So those are two of the definitive characteristics of any culture you're looking at. So Hellenization, when the Romans take over, Herod is a Hellenizer. He wants everything to be Greco-Roman. These are the guys in charge. Even though he's Jewish, he's sort of, changing things. And a lot of the Jews who are faithful, who stayed faithful during the exile and returned, were very hurt by this. Especially because a lot of what the Hellenizers do is they abandon traditional Jewish customs. So in Samaria, you see this Roman wall around it. You see some of the classic features of Roman cities. You have a forum. You have a stadium. You have a temple here. And this is not a temple to God. This is a temple to a Greco-Roman god. So imagine, here's a Roman theater, an Acropolis. You have all these different features of a Roman city. And for the Jews watching this happen, they had to question, do we go with the flow and forget our old ways and become Hellenized? Or do we make a stand and remain faithful to our tradition? And that was sort of the question that they faced at that time. So if we go back to our map, up here, this is Caesarea, and I have to look at my map because I always spell it wrong. Here on the coast, it's named after Caesar. Herod built Caesarea, and he named it after Caesar. It's a port city. Something that you should know about Caesarea is Pilate often stayed there. Pilate became the governor of Judea after Herod the Great's son almost incited a revolt, but he hated it there. He didn't like the Jews, so he usually stayed up at Caesarea, and you'll see why. It's beautiful, rather than staying down in Judea. So let me show you the port city of Caesarea. So this is a port that was built by Herod the Great, and Herod the Great, just so you know, he's the guy who tried to kill Jesus with a baby. Let me turn this sound off because it's going to mess up my video. So this is Caesarea. So Herod built this. There were palaces there, and you're going to see the port of Caesarea. He built that himself. He had laborers actually. See, this is the harbor. That harbor is not natural. They created that. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in your way. So that harbor you see there, that was all created by Herod the Great. And you can see the excavations of Caesarea. His palace is there. Pilate stayed there. And let me just fast forward. We don't need to see the sushi restaurant. So as they show you I wanted you guys to see the Greco-Roman architecture. You see the columns, classic Greco-Roman architecture, and you're going to see a stadium. Just like horse races we have today, we had a stadium there for horse and chariot races. So it's down here. You'll see that classic shape. And here you can see they're still doing excavations there. And you can see some of the tile on the floor. It must have been beautiful when it was to see it in Jesus' time. We could probably go and get an architectural model. See the stadium here? You can see it's that classic shape of a stadium. And so this is the stadium where they would have had, you know, events and races, and so very much in the style of Greco-Roman architecture. But to many of the faithful Jews, this is an affront. This is about, you know, this is about losing who you really were. And they hated Herod for that. Plus, Herod overtaxed them in order to build all this stuff. So, that's Caesarea. And we'll go back to our map. Now we're up into Galilee. So this region here that I have outlined in black, this is the Galilee. There's the Sea of Galilee. This little dot here was for the Jezreel Valley. I don't think I'm going to show you that one. I think we're getting too many things here. So let me name these cities, and then we'll look at them. This is the one at the top on the coast of the Sea of Galilee is Capernaum, and I can't spell it, so let me look at my map. No. Capernaum is important because Jesus and the disciples spent a lot of time there. That's where Peter's from. Peter lived in Capernaum. And then over here in sort of the middle, you have Nazareth. Why is Nazareth important? That's where Jesus lived, right? Jesus' family's from Nazareth. He's born in Bethlehem, but grows up in Nazareth. And then there's Cana up here. Cana is where Jesus has his first miracle in the Gospel of John. So let's look at Cana, and then we'll look at the others. So Cana, so here again, that hilly country, a little drier, must be in the summer. This is a church that was dedicated to Jesus and his first miracle. If we take a look at Nazareth, what did Nazareth look like? This is Nazareth. This is where Jesus grew up. Yes. What was the miracle at Cana? It was the changing water into wine. And Jesus, in John's Gospel, that was the first miracle. That's where he did it, in Cana. And so this is Nazareth. Now remember, when we read about Jesus going down from Galilee, down to Jerusalem, where he meets his death, that's 63 miles. That's about an hour and 50-minute car drive if you drive it. It's sort of like driving to LA and back. So imagine walking all that way. And this is what Nazareth looks like today. These spires you see, those are called minarets. Those tell us that that's a Muslim mosque there. Just like Bethlehem, this area is occupied by the Palestinians, so mainly a Muslim population. A mosque is the house of worship for Muslims. And we know this is a mosque. The reason why is these two spires are minarets, and from there they do the call to prayer. So Muslims pray 5 times a day, so that when it's time for them to pray, they'll do the call to prayer, and everyone stops whatever they're doing, you get out your prayer rug, you face Mecca, and you do your prayers. So it's one of the kind of neat things that I think is really nice about Islam. Is they pray 5 times a day, and they take it super seriously. You can actually buy prayer alarm clocks. My sister has one she got in Iraq that you could program to remind you to pray. So this is where Jesus grew up and hung out with his boys. Yeah, him and the apostles. They're like a little gang. Him and his 12 apostles. My last thing I want to show you is the Sea of Galilee. Think about all the times we hear Jesus doing stuff at the Sea of Galilee, calming the storm, going out in the boat and finding the apostles. This is where he found them. When he saw Peter, the fisherman, fishing, he said, "Come with me. I'll make you a fisher of men instead of just a fisherman." So this is the last thing. So I'm going to click on this video. If you're watching this for the Flip lecture, I'll put it in. It'll be on the next slide. So